What's up? Hello. And welcome, everybody, to the Homewrecker podcast.
Yeah.
You like the way I said that? The Homewrecker podcast.
Is that how you said it?
Something like that. No, probably different that second time. I was trying to be more obnoxious. But anyway, welcome everybody to the Homewrecker podcast. How's that? Better?
Yeah, because that's what I want to do is be obnoxious for our
I
hearers and
wasn't
watchers.
trying to be obnoxious. All right. Just try to have a little bit of fun. But this is the show where you and I, we're the Homewrecker podcast because we like to wreck and shatter conventional wisdom and ways of thinking by bringing alternative viewpoints and different subjects to light in an attempt to not only change the thoughts and feelings most people accept as reality, but we try to obliterate them completely. So I am your host, the Golden Greek, Alex Arion, joined as always by my beautiful, lovely, gorgeous, amazing wife, the lovely certified hypnotherapist, Monique.
Hello.
See, I try to get everything in that time.
there we
I
go.
forgot intelligent. Damn it. Remember last week we said,
Yeah,
all right, I'll try to
that's
remember
okay.
at the end of the show. I apologize for that.
He was like, "Do I ever say you're intelligent?" And I'm like, "I don't think so."
Well, you are.
Hey,
right?
but I'm,
Just-
you know,
I'm trying to add to you. I'm trying to build you up even more
my
so every
repertoire.
time. Yes, because I'm just the Golden Greek, and anybody listening's like, so what does that even mean? Like, why are you the Golden Greek? But you're beautiful, gorgeous, amazing. Like, if people don't know that I used to be a wrestler, then they're not gonna. They're gonna be like, why is he calling himself that? And even so, why is he still calling himself that? Jeez. Yeah.
You're
That's
golden.
right.
You have your gold in your beard, your golden keys, Greek keys.
That's right. My beard has gotten so long, I'm now putting beads in it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. That's right.
Mm-hmm.
Anybody watching right now is like, what the hell's wrong with this guy? I don't know. I just like to have fun.
And that's important.
And this creation here that I'm wearing currently is not mine. This is not my doing. It's the lovely young lady sitting next to me who likes to get her creativity out on me. And I'm just like, yeah, that's fine. Whatever.
I explained to him, I stopped coloring my hair 2 years ago. And so that was part of, like, I would always color my hair different colors because that was part of my creativity, coloring my hair. And
that was your creative outlet?
Yes.
What wacky color can I make my hair this week?
Yeah.
All right,
and
then.
Now that I'm not coloring my hair anymore, I need to do something creative with hair another way. So I'm doing it with your beard.
There you go. Fair enough.
So thank you for holding that space for me.
Sure, no problem. and for being gutsy enough to just do it and not care, right? Something like that. I got to put myself over somehow. So I'm gonna call myself gutsy.
Let like their little daughters like do their beard in certain ways and their hair, and he just lets his wife.
Yeah, we don't have any. I don't have any daughters, so my wife's gonna have to do her girly stuff on my beard.
Yeah,
I guess.
So anything else new with you aside from your beard?
My beard, no.
Your stylish beard.
My stylish beard. I fasted again this week for another. I almost went 5 days, but I decided actually today. I'm like, I'm just gonna eat today. Wasn't hungry. I told you I'm not hungry. I just kind of want to eat today.
Yeah.
And I ate, and I swear, like the first, like I had some. I always break my fast anytime I go more than like a day. I always break my fast with a big mug of beef bone broth, and I'll put like some collagen protein powder in there. I'm excited, and then I'll drink that down, and like within 30 minutes of drinking, I was like just wired. It was weird. Like it wasn't like there wasn't caffeine in it or anything, but it was just like my body getting nutrients. Is like, whoa,
yeah,
what's going on? And I felt great the last 4 days.
Yeah.
Again, I had my initial hump that I went through like around the 32, 34 hour mark that lasted for a couple hours. Then after that, I was fine. It's great. I told you I had a workout yesterday where I worked out, and I was exceeding my my poundages from last week. I'm like, I'm fasted for 3 days. How am I stronger? This makes no sense. But
well, I told you because you put your mind in that you're going to do it, so you did it.
I guess, yeah. Mind is a powerful thing.
It is. I say that all the time.
Yes. So no, aside from that, nothing really new with me other than that. And I'm sure anybody listening or watching is like, you don't eat. Good for you. But
Hey, to each their
that
own.
that is my life now. It's my excitement is all the different things I can do with my body, challenging myself with different ways of eating, training, and all that stuff.
Yeah.
But that's my world. Yay, fun. Woo.
Yay.
How about yourself, my lady?
Um,
What's new with you?
my plants are growing. My seeds are
As
sprouty.
they're wont to do,
Yeah, it's just
they
so
grow.
cool. Like seeing it, it's like, whoa, it got bigger. Whoa, it got bigger every day. It's really cool. So I'm excited about that. I want to give a shout out to Dylan on YouTube.
Hi,
This guy
Dylan.
is awesome. Like he's always commenting, responding, and we get to have conversations. And he has good insight and perspective.
For sure.
So we love that. So Dylan,
What's
here's
up?
to you. Thank you. And also to Chrissy on YouTube. Love you.
Hi,
Thank
Chrissy.
you.
Hi, Dylan. Thank you, guys.
We love you. Thank you.
And everybody else who doesn't take the time to comment, and that's cool.
We love you too.
Hi to you as well.
And our hearers.
Yes.
We love
of course.
you. Just a big love fest.
Yes. Well, that's what it's all about. Anybody that wants to spend their time listening or watching
Yeah,
us,
we
I'm like,
appreciate you.
thanks. Because I'm just a goof. I mean,
We both are.
we kind of, I mean, we do try to bring some insightful topics
Yeah.
and conversations and things. But I mean, at the end of the day, if you're spending your time listening to us, thank you. We really do appreciate it.
Mm-hmm.
So this week, unless you have anything else you'd like to talk about,
No,
we'll
I
just
want to
get
get
right
into
into
it.
it.
Yeah,
We'll
let's
just get
do
right
it.
into it. We're going to be talking Missing 411. We've done a bunch of these shows in the past,
Mhm.
and they're always just very. I like doing the shows because it really every time we do them and we examine certain cases, it's like I get new questions that pop up in my mind, and then and it really gets me thinking in different ways and trying to figure out the mystery of these missing folks that go either missing or they get found in their unexplainable circumstances, and so yeah, I enjoy doing these because they're just it's a mystery that you want to solve,
Yeah.
and it like scratches that itch of I gotta figure out what the hell's going on with this. I gotta figure it out.
And
So
just to spread awareness that this stuff happens.
yes, that's the
And
other
we're going to
thing.
be talking about some more recent incidents. And again, it's not like these are all just from like years ago. This stuff
This
is
is
still
something that's
happening
happening still
today.
today. Yeah.
And if we can talk about and maybe learn from things from these books by David Paulides, then maybe it'll increase our chances that if we're out somewhere, who knows?
I'll tell you now, I'm very if we're going into the woods or anything like that, like I'm very, very much, especially when we're with our children, holding hands. Like everybody has to be like
Nobody
right.
wanders off.
Everybody has to be like within like arm's length away if we're walking and we're not holding their hand, because of just the stuff that we're finding out in these books and just the way that a lot of young children, I mean, people of all ages, but especially the young kids that go missing. It's like, how did what? It's so yeah. It just anyway.
Yeah.
I don't know where I was going with that, but this definitely made us change the way that we act when we go out into the woods now, and
even like if we go for a hike, telling people where we're going,
right,
what our plan is, what time to probably expect us, because he even says it in his books how it's so important to communicate where you're going.
Yeah, absolutely.
Telling people like when you should be expected back.
Yes. So I think it'd be good for anybody that doesn't know about missing 411 and what constitutes a missing person case to fall into the category of missing 411. Thought it'd be a good idea to just kind of briefly talk about what most of these cases either have some of these components, and that's why they're classified and they're documented in these books that David Paulides writes, where he compiles all these different unusual missing person cases. They have some of these traits. Some have more than one. Some, in any event, the time of disappearance will be any time of day. So it doesn't. There's no actual like set time that you find a lot of these disappearances occurring. They occur at all times of day. The profile points. A canine cannot find a scent. So you'll have a canine go to find somebody. They'll have an item of the person's, and then they can't find a scent. or it'll just they'll follow it to a certain area, and then it just kind of they just stop.
And
Uh,
also, it comes up a lot where canines have searched an area repeatedly and there's nothing there. And then later on, they find the person in a spot where canines searched and people searched.
right.
Yeah, when people are found.
I guess I'll skip that part.
Oh.
Weather, in the vast majority of cases, weather has a significant impact on the rescue or recovery of the victim. So somebody will go missing. A search team is notified. They're going to go out, but all of a sudden it'll start raining really bad, or it'll start snowing really bad, or just really strange weather type of events seem to happen and occur. And it's very strange just
Almost like,
because of the timing of it.
yeah, almost like weather is trying to stop people from finding the missing
Correct.
people.
Yeah. Victims found either with missing clothes or missing shoes, sometimes found alive, thankfully. Other times not the case, but their shoes or their clothing will be found, and their body will be found much later. But it never makes sense as to why they would have removed their clothing or their shoes.
And another thing that I've pointed out in a previous Missing 411 episode that I noticed a trend of is a lot of times when they're found deceased, they're face down, which
Right.
is kind of just like, given all the weird circumstances, they're also face down. So
Yeah, they're not always face down, but
the majority, like, so yeah.
Disability or illness. Sometimes some of these folks that go missing will have some type of either a mental disability, be it hearing, speech impairment, autism, anything like that, or a physical disability, whether it be like a bum knee or something like that, just something, anything like that, and that will be
Hearing issues.
I said hearing, didn't
Oh,
I?
sorry,
I thought I said hearing.
You might have.
Oh, okay. But anyway, yeah, a disability or illness. Sometimes those folks tend to be the ones that you'll find a lot of them missing that had an issue like that. Lack of memory for people who are found. They cannot remember what happened to themselves. They're for younger children, they can't communicate it because maybe they're just too young and they're not verbally able to communicate what they went through. For people that are a little bit older, they just have no recollection at all. Almost like, I guess you could liken it to missing time when people, alleged alien abductees and things like that, that report missing time and not knowing where they were for a certain amount. It's kind of like the same idea. So very, very interesting when that occurs. Boulders and granite. A lot of people found or excuse me, go missing. The most significant cluster of missing people anywhere in the world is in Yosemite National Park. And that happens to be one of the locations in the world that has a high concentration of granite. We're here in the granite state of New Hampshire. So that makes me very nervous now when I go into the woods.
But yeah, a
Like,
lot
what?
of there's not a lot of incidences that
that
documented
that we know of.
Yeah, documented.
So yeah, anyway, very interesting there. Swamps and bogs, a lot of missing people located in the middle of swamps or bogs, which is usually I mean, why would somebody be in the middle of a swamp?
Yeah.
And I mean, and these are bodies that are found there, obviously deceased after the fact, or people that have been found alive, but they're in the middle of a swamp or in the middle of a bog. A lot of young kids that go missing are found there too. It's very strange. Point of separation is another key point in these disappearances. It's something that was identified several years ago by Paulides, and a lot of his readers actually helped to call attention to it. When two people decide to part company, he says that, wow, I apologize. I lost my place here. But essentially, when two people lose contact with each other, I guess that tends to be the time when,
or if there's a group and somebody trails behind,
somebody trails behind or goes off ahead. Yes, those. So it's almost like they're being watched, and like the minute they get alone or they're vulnerable, I guess you could say, like somebody who's up ahead and nobody from behind could see, or somebody who's in the back and nobody in front could see, that they're vulnerable now, so they could be snatched if that's what's happening. If you know what I mean, like if say it's like Bigfoot, we'll say if that's what's happening,
Mhm.
they've been watching all along. Now they see the vulnerability, they see the opportune moment, and boom, they snatch them. If that, like I said, if that's what's occurring, or they're being led away, something calls to them and they're led away, and nobody notices them until it's too late. And by the time they notice that they're missing, it's who knows how long they've been missing for. So yeah, that's a lot of the points that classify a case as missing 411. They're all just very, very strange and unusual. And yeah, it's very unfortunate, some of the stories that you read about. Obviously, there are some that have happy endings because the person is found
Yeah.
and they're unharmed and they're okay. But the ones where sadly they're either found deceased or not ever found at all, those are the ones that are just, they're very troubling because you never get answers. You know, the families don't get answers. And obviously they want to know what happened.
Yeah.
But yeah, so we're gonna start today. We've selected 4 cases. Actually, you went through and selected these 4, and they're very interesting. I think we'll have some good conversation surrounding these. And let's get into it. You want to go first?
Sure.
All right. Why don't you read first? We're gonna read about.
This takes place in Nevada. It's regarding Jacob Beetler. Jacob went missing July 27th of 2016 around 6 p.m. in Ruby Mountains, Nevada. He was 20 years old when he disappeared. Some of the phenomena that occurred regarding this case were weather, missing clothing. He was a hunter, and there was hypothermia involved. One of the most, and this is quoting the book, one of the most ironic parts of my research is the unique persona of the people I write about. I do not specifically look to document just healthy, polite people. I look for a profile behind the disappearance. It seems very odd that the vast majority of people I write about are nice, wholesome, God-fearing, polite individuals. Why? I dug deep into the background of 20-year-old Jacob Beetler, who was raised in the small town of Spring Creek, Nevada, just 3 miles southeast of Elko. The city boasts a population of over 12,000 and claims to be the bedroom community for people working in the greater Elko area. The Beetler family was a staple of Spring Creek. Joe and Rhonda had raised a daughter, Miriam, and a son, Jacob. Joe was an environmental specialist for a local mining company, and Jacob had graduated from Spring Creek High School. The 20-year-old young man had played youth soccer, worshiped at Ruby Mountain Bible College, and even played the piano. As with many people I know, he specifically enjoyed the challenges that were brought by stalking deer and elk for archery season. He wouldn't just go out and try to find the game that first day of the season. He was smart. Jacob went into the mountains and scouted sites where the deer and elk were holed up. It made that first day of the season a bit less challenging. On July 26, 2016, Jacob Beetler told his family that he'd be getting up at 5 a.m. the next morning and driving just southeast of his house to the Ruby Mountains and to do scouting for deer and elk season. He said that he'd be back that night. The morning of July 27th was almost perfect for scouting big game. It was a bit warm, but that made being in the sun at elevation comfortable. Jacob woke on time, dressed out in his camouflage hunting gear, and headed for the Rubies, a short 12-mile drive from his home. A hiker in the Rubies reported seeing the young hunter on a trail during the day of the 27th. This was the last confirmed sighting anyone had of Jacob alive. Joe and Rhonda Beetler were expecting their son home at about 6 p.m. The night of the 27th, he didn't arrive. They were nervous that entire night, hoping he'd walk through the door. By the time the morning of the 28th arrived, they called law enforcement and reported Jacob missing. The Elko County Sheriff took the lead on the SAR for Jacob. SAR is search and rescue, by the way. They started looking on Ruby Dome and then went towards Harrison Pass when they heard from a hiker indicating that they saw him. They later switched towards an area near Wines Peak. The sheriff brought in an aircraft from the Nevada Division of Forestry, U.S. Navy, and the National Guard. They flew grid patterns over the mountains looking for anything out of the ordinary. They saw nothing. Jacob took his cell phone with him during his trip. The Ruby Mountains are a fairly narrow stretch of land with roads on both sides. If you were near the top of the hills, you should have reception. The sheriff attempted to ping the phone and did not get a response, meaning it was either off or the battery was dead. During the time that Jacob was missing, the National Weather Service had issued an unusual summer hazardous weather outlook with a chance of thunderstorms and heavy rain. Strange for a desert that has 100-degree weather during the summer. Articles indicated that search efforts were called off temporarily when weather hit the area August 4th. Dozens of search and rescue members, volunteers, and other professionals, along with trained canines, spent over 2 weeks looking for the 20-year-old. On August 8th, the sheriff announced that the search and rescue efforts would be scaled back. They had covered every possible area they imagined he would be and came up empty. Ruby Dome has an elevation of 11,387 feet and is barren rock. And the vast majority of the mountain, and as is the vast majority of the mountains in the area. There is not a significant amount of large trees or ground cover, but there are many small lakes in this range. The ground and views in these areas are awesome. Nothing happened on this case until there was an August 14th article on KENV News. Quote, archery hunters found several items belonging to missing hiker Jacob Beetler, including boots, clothing, and a wallet with his driver's license inside, end quote. It went on to say they were found in a crevice in an area described as a cliff. There was no mention of seeing Jacob anywhere in the area. The August 22nd, 2016 edition of the Elko Daily had these details of what search and rescue found when they went into this area where Jacob's belongings were found on August 13th. Quote, his body was recovered by the Washoe County Sheriff's Office High Altitude Rescue Team on August 16th near Birch Creek on the eastern side of the Ruby Mountains. Beetler 20 was found a few hundred feet from his belongings, said Under Sheriff Rob Supp, end quote. The article also stated that it did not appear to rescue crews that Jacob had any broken bones and he did not have any clothing or shoes on. Within several days, the coroner made a statement that Jacob did not break any bones on the supposed fall and apparently died of hypothermia. There was no other explanation. It was reported that hikers had last seen Jacob on July 27th near Harrison Pass. It then stated he was near Wines Peak. The line of sight distance from Harrison Pass to Birch Creek is approximately 20 miles. Is someone implying he hiked that distance? If Jacob had been standing on the ridge looking east towards Birch Creek, he could see the valley and Ruby Valley Road below. I have written about dozens of cases where authorities throw around the term, quote unquote, hypothermia loosely. Either the victim did not have the opportunity to develop hypothermia because they were not in the elements long enough before they started stripping clothing, or the temperatures were not that cold. In this instance, nobody wishes to give Jacob the brains enough to realize that when it started getting cold, you start dropping in elevation where it immediately gets warmer. He was raised in these mountains. He knew them like his backyard because they were mostly in his backyard. If you wish to believe that hypothermia was the reason he stripped his clothes, how about his boots? Have you ever tried hiking across the razor sharp rock at 11,000 feet? It's brutally tough on the feet. The coroner never released the date or time of death, just the cause, hypothermia. We are led to believe that Jacob fell down the cliff, was not injured, decided to lay on the ground and die from hypothermia. He was just 2 miles from the roadway, directly east of him, down the valley following Birch Creek. He was an outdoorsman who knew water flows to the valleys, that was the direction to humanity and safety. Remember this saying, local reports for local consumption. The local sheriff will not release their reports. And he put in parentheses, I requested it. We don't know what they wrote. I can tell you that the coverage of local media never questioned anything about the details associated with Jacob. I feel deep compassion for for the Beetler family, knowing they lost such a great young man.
That's insane.
That's messed up.
Like, yeah, what? Yeah, you'll find that often in these cases. Hypothermia, like he said, they use that often as a cause of death, and in a lot of cases where it just makes no sense.
I mean, he goes hunting. He knows that area.
Right? Yeah, it's very bizarre.
You think, okay, did he hit his head and he got disoriented? But there was no signs of trauma.
If there's no bruising or contusions or bumps or anything like there was no broken bones, and they assume that he fell a great distance. How do you fall and not have any signs, any physical damage on your body? Like, how does that happen? It just, yeah, it
And then
just makes
nothing's
no
broken,
sense.
but I'm just gonna lay here.
Yeah, I'm just gonna lay right, exactly. So even if he did fall, he's not gonna attempt to move
Because again, if
after
he
that.
fell and he was unconscious, wouldn't they have seen something in the autopsy showing
You would think
like contusions to the brain or something?
anything. Uh, again, without seeing the autopsy
Mhm.
report and not knowing exactly what they
And
found.
why wouldn't they give the day and time of death? It
Again, who
makes me
knows?
wonder, like,
Like, if it makes me think they're covering something up.
yeah, do they know something?
That's where my mind always goes to, is that they know, or they have an idea of what's causing this, and they realize that it's nothing they can do anything about, because why else would they act in the way that they do?
Then why not just
I
tell
feel
people?
like I feel like it's one of those unspoken things. Like, they know, and it's kind of like an unwritten rule. We know, but we're not going to tell anybody, because either people will freak out, or whatever the rationale is. But I don't know.
I
That just,
guess
it reeks a cover up to me when we hear this kind of stuff.
I wonder if they started spreading the word like a rumor. You know how like stories like, oh, this place is haunted, be careful going here.
Yeah.
What if they started spreading it like a rumor, so that way it gets the word out, but it's not confirmed. At least you're trying to get it out to people, and then I don't know, based on the reaction,
Part of me
eventually tell people.
part of me wonders if it is, now and again, this is just spitballing and completely throwing random stuff out there. What if it's like something to the effect of, you remember that movie Cabin in the Woods,
Yeah.
where they have the kids that go out and they
Mhm.
put them through all this horrible stuff in order to sacrifice them to the
The
whatever, the
god.
god or the giants or whatever they are at
Yeah.
the end of the movie. What if it's something like that, where they know, they being the National Forest Service, or whatever, the government, whatever, whoever they quote unquote are, they know what it is, but they know that they cannot do anything about it. They can't stop it, and they know that it, whatever it is, needs these people, needs the souls or the whatever. I don't know. I'm just throwing stuff out there. They just know, and that's why they don't do anything about it, because it's kind of one of those things that's always been there. It's like something that's just always been, and they don't do anything about it. They'll go searching, sure, but they don't warn people about it, because it's kind of like a natural selection type thing, where it's going to happen no matter what. So we're not going to do anything about it to interfere, because it's not our place to interfere. And anytime we can run interference by just omitting certain details in a case, or leaving a couple of details out when we write our report, so people don't ask questions, or maybe ask more questions and we're very vague, whatever the case may be. But maybe if they just know this is what it is, we don't know exactly what it is, but it must continue to occur,
But
and we can't stop it. So we're not going to try to cause a panic. We're just going to let it be.
but why do some people, not everyone is dead, and then
Like I
sometimes we
said,
have brains.
natural selection.
I think
Like
what's
I said, natural selection.
I think a more likely cause I could see it's our own government taking people doing experiments, and that's why people will go missing for a certain period of
Could be
time.
that too.
They're doing an experiment, so that's why they're not there when it was first searched, and then they either drop them off or they die during the experiment, or maybe it's just depending on what they do, they die. And
Could
whether
be
they
that
keep
too.
it depending on the results, if a body is so traumatized that there's no explanation for, well, we can't put that one back, so we'll just keep this one, we'll dispose of it. Like, that is a more likely scenario kind of possibility.
Okay, sure. But why would that be any more likely than what I said?
No, I know,
Do
I'm
you
just
know
saying,
anything that's going on in the forest? I
based
don't.
based on that thought,
I
that made me
mean,
think that would be more
oh,
likely.
fair enough. But I mean, that's the thing with all these cases. We don't know.
Yeah.
Nobody knows. And there's not hundreds. There's thousands of these, and they
Yes.
go back to the earliest ones I think that Paulides wrote about his book were like the late 1890s.
Yeah.
Who knows how long this stuff's been going on for? And he's just constantly, and now as the phenomenon grows and the missing 411, his work gets more notoriety, gets more popular, more people find out about it. He's getting more people sending stuff in that maybe before didn't realize that a missing person case, that maybe if to a loved one or someone in their town or something, they didn't realize it had a classification. Now they can say this fits all the criteria, and it's like another one that gets tossed in, and you're just like, what the hell's causing all this? The government thing that you said, okay, I can totally see that. And if not the government, maybe some type of a corporation or a company that's doing these some
Yeah.
clandestine operation that's doing some kind of experiments. Sure, I absolutely can see that as a viable thing too. I don't think it explains all of the cases. Uh, but again, I don't have anything that does explain all the cases. Some people say Bigfoot, okay, but does Bigfoot explain the ones that happen in the city? Because you don't necessarily typically hear about Bigfoot being in the city. I don't know. That's the thing. There's so many. Just, is it aliens? I don't know. If you believe in aliens,
Is it a little bit of everything? Who knows?
is it a little bit? Yeah, but that's just it. It's very bizarre.
Yeah.
So
Do you want to read the next one, honey?
sure, let's go to the great state of Oregon is where this one took place. This one, Stephen Reed is the person we're going to be reading about here. He went missing on June 23rd, 1999 in Salmon Butte Trailhead in Sandy, Oregon. He was 24 years old when he disappeared. A Butte? Butte?
Butte?
Butte. If I'm mispronouncing that, I apologize. I don't live in Oregon. And so I'm just doing the best I can. I'll say Butte so it doesn't sound funny to you. How's that?
No, I thought it was pronounced Butte.
Butte,
I could be totally wrong.
Butte,
If you know, let us
Butte.
know.
I'll say Butte. Why not? All right. And again, I'm reading right from the book here. Sometimes I do things that surprise myself, and I have no idea why I decided to do it. In the thousands of cases of missing people that I have reviewed, you can count on one hand the number of times I have proactively contacted a victim's family. When I first started into this arena, I called a couple of missing person organizations and explained what I was going to do and wanted to understand where the landmines were in their world. I found that each group told me that if I was writing a book about the disappearance, do not reach out to families as many will feel as though they were being re-victimized. I listened carefully to that advice, and it's been on a very rare occasion that I'd make that call. I can remember reading the thick file that the Clackamas County Sheriff in Oregon sent to me on Stephen Reed, and for some reason felt a need to phone the victim's family. I made the call that changed my perception of this disappearance. I want to thank Hope and Larry Reed, Stephen's parents, for their patience and support in helping me put together their son's story. Stephen Reed was a kid that was destined for the medical world. He showed brilliance at a young age and indicated intense interest in medicine. When he was 12 years old, he asked his parents for a book, Gray's Anatomy. He wasn't a very athletic young man, but showed interest in karate. He practiced for years to become a brown belt at age 13. He asked to take the black belt exam and was told he was too young. At the age of 14, Larry and Hope sent Stephen to Boulder, Colorado, so he could spend time with his aunt. He enjoyed the trip and specifically talked about climbing a few 14,000-foot peaks. It was the first time that he had seen the big mountains of the Rockies. Great grades bring good schools, and this led Stephen to Albion College in Michigan. His intellect took over. School seemed easy as he made his way through a biology degree. He was Phi Beta Kappa and summa cum laude and accepted into Wayne State Medical School. His dream had come true. The first year in medical school is always one of the toughest for any student, but he made it look easy. He was awarded a summer internship at the Mayo Clinic, a very prestigious summer job. He completed his second year of school, took the medical school tests, and passed. It was the first time in 6 years that Stephen had time off for himself to enjoy a well-deserved vacation. He told Hope and Larry that he wanted to travel to Oregon and look for possible residency, checking out Oregon and seeing the wildlife. The parents gave him $500 in cash as a gift for doing so well in school. Hope told me that one of the things she remembers telling Stephen was to not go alone if he went hiking in the woods, words that would later seem prophetic. On June 19th, 1999, Stephen flew into Portland International Airport. The next stop was the Rent-A-Wreck car counter, where he was able to get a Chevrolet Cavalier for his travels. He then drove to the Portland Youth Hostel and paid for 13 nights with his credit card, according to law enforcement reports. On June 20th, Stephen called his parents on a cell phone they let him borrow, indicated he had arrived, had lodging, rented a car, and all was fine. The manager of the hostel stated that Stephen was often gone before many of the people woke up. The manager said that he was last seen on either June 22nd or 23rd, but wasn't sure. He stated that it was early evening when he saw Stephen dressed in a suit, and a subsequent conversation centered about if his residency interviews went well. He reportedly had a meeting with Legacy Emmanuel Hospital. Stephen had passed his second-year medical exams and now could start applying for residency programs. His life was on track. This was the last time the management had seen Stephen. Sometime between June 19th and June 22nd, Stephen had attended a Bach, B-A-C-H, Bach. He had attended a Bach concert in Portland. There was also a receipt for a book he purchased during this time, quote, God is a Verb. Other than the few locations and contacts documented here, Stephen's activities during this period are unknown. On June 22nd, he drove the Chevy Cavalier from downtown Portland, 25 miles southeast to the Salmon Huckleberry Wilderness, and completed a trail permit to enter the Salmon Butte Trail. He parked the car at the trailhead and hiked into oblivion. I want all potential hikers to read this next paragraph. Trail permits from the United States Forest Service are designed for one thing: to understand the number of people impacting the wilderness. The pass is not so the United States Forest Service can initiate a search when you don't come back on the date indicated. The truth is that the permits are sometimes stacked in the box for weeks with nobody reading them. On June 23rd, a man and his female friend were hiking the same area as Stephen. When they entered the Salmon Butte trailhead, they had seen the Chevrolet and thought it had to be a day hiker. When they came out, they were concerned that the vehicle was still there. They looked through the windows into the car and found there was a considerable number of items on the passenger seat, meaning that the driver entered alone. The pair re-entered the wilderness, searched the area, and found nothing. These people felt so strongly that something was wrong, they called the Clackamas County Sheriff and asked them to check on the vehicle. The sheriff sent a deputy to the trailhead that ran the registration on the license plate, and the car came back registered to a family who the deputy called and left a voicemail message with. That family did contact the deputy and stated the vehicle was sold to Rent-A-Wreck. It was at this point that the system started to fail Stephen. This is the first opportunity for search and rescue to jump on the effort to locate him promptly. Stephen was supposed to be on a return flight to Detroit on an American Airlines flight July 2nd. Hope and Larry were anxious to have him home safely. When it was determined he wasn't on the plane, they called the Portland police and tried to file a missing person report. The Reeds advised me that they were told that the police would not take the report unless they were there in person. They made the decision then to fly to Oregon. 10 days after Stephen Reed hiked into the Salmon Huckleberry Wilderness, the first searchers walked down the trail. The Clackamas County Sheriff had obtained the assistance of search dogs, search and rescue teams, and a helicopter from the National Guard. There were reports that searchers faced rain and wet weather conditions while in the woods. The Reeds were both on the site of the search at this point and watched as it evolved. They told me that they were highly upset over the attitude and quality of the work performed by the sheriff's office. They said that the volunteer search and rescue members were outstanding. They also stated that one search and rescue member privately told them that there was an old man in the woods that had lived in the area for many years and everyone knew it. They believed that there was a possibility that he knew something about Stephen, but nobody knew where he was located or where his camp was located. This is one of the many hints and leads that were forwarded over the years. Canines never traced him down if he was in the area. Searchers pored over the butte for several days and then approached the family with the evidence they had. Nothing. It was mutually agreed, per reports, that the search was over. Reluctantly, the Reeds obtained some of their son's belongings from the vehicle and hostel and headed back to Michigan. Hope Reed had a friend that knew a psychic. She called her a reflexologist. This person supposedly had psychic ability, and in early September of 1999, the Reeds and this psychic flew to Portland to go to the trailhead. Reports indicate that on September 9th, Clackamas County Deputy Chris Nolte and United States Forest Service Ranger Jeff Jacqua met with the Reeds and their psychic to walk the trail. Here is one of the paragraphs in Deputy Nolte's report. The name of the psychic has been redacted. Quote, throughout the talks I had with name redacted psychic, they described the area they were seeing as being very high in altitude, had cliff faces with large jagged rocks from the cliff face, end quote. It was the psychic's belief that Stephen was in that specific area, but where was that? The day ended with the psychic stating that they did not feel anything from the regions they had visited. On September 10th, the group met for the second day. Here is what a paragraph in the law enforcement report states about what the psychic told the deputy. Quote, the psychic told me that she accompanied the Reeds up the trail to a point where the trail makes a switchback. At this point on the west side of the trail down a cliff, one will see 3 trees in a teepee type fashion laying on the ground. In and around those trees, a pair of glasses belonging to Stephen Reed will be found. Near where the glasses are is a water bottle, also belonging to the subject, end quote. There were other details, but they are unimportant to the story. It is at this point that the facts of this story differ significantly from the sheriff's report and the Reeds' version. The report says that on September 12th, a search and rescue team put members over the side of the trail and into the area identified by the psychic. The searchers spent over 2 hours searching, and they found nothing relevant to Stephen. The report says, quote, upon arrival back at the trailhead, I spoke with the Reeds, who were visibly disappointed. In talking with them, they both agreed that the area where the psychic had seen and described was well searched by the teams. End quote. When I spoke with the Reeds, they informed me that the psychic had clearly stated that search teams would need a metal detector to find the glasses. They claim that deputies knew the tools that were required and did not utilize them the day the search and rescue team members searched the area. The sheriff's department had gone into the wilderness after the first search and rescue attempt and had utilized cadaver dogs and additional searchers. The canines did not find anything related to Stephen, and this second attempt was abandoned. Search and rescue search maps forwarded to me in the sheriff's case file show that the grid search focused on the area immediately around the trailhead and a very confined zone near the main trail. There were incidents where some caves in rural zones were covered. Various search and rescue reports indicated that they searched areas with 50 to 70% effectiveness. Their numbers, not mine. The exact location of the trailhead is approximately 7 miles southwest of Mount Hood, a place I have written about because of the numbers of missing people. In earlier missing 411 books, I've drawn an association between missing person cases in the Pacific Northwest and huckleberries. Is it just coincidence that Stephen vanished in the Salmon Huckleberry Wilderness? The search for Stephen Reed was destined for failure from the start. You cannot initiate a search for anyone 10 days after they are expected out of an area and think there will be success. During my conversation with the Reeds, they were very vocal in their displeasure with the law enforcement officials and what they claim is their attitude of not being as concerned as they should be. There is no doubt in the minds of anyone who knew Stephen that he was brilliant. He was headed for a stellar medical career until something happened that destroyed his life and the lives of relatives. Hope and Larry had told me that after 4 years of missing their son, they felt they could no longer talk about it. When I spoke to them, both still had a sense of anger and disappointment that our government representatives had failed them. I specifically asked if they had ongoing contact or assistance from the United States Forest Service. They stated, never. There has never been one thing recovered by search and rescue teams working the Stephen Reed disappearance. The case file is still open, and there are many other open missing person cases in this area of Oregon.
The fuck?
I can't say rural.
You just did.
I just did.
That's fucked up.
Yeah. I don't even know. When
to say like you have to be here in person, one, go fuck yourself. You know?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I'd be like, get me your
That
supervisor.
detail right there, that angered me so much when I first read that. Like, are
your
you
kid
kidding
is
me?
missing.
You're not going to take a report because I'm not in the state.
The fact
that matters.
And before that, somebody is missing. Their car is there. They contact, it's a rental. So why didn't they contact the rental company, find out who it belongs to? It's like, seriously, it's one extra phone call.
Well, they did. They contacted the family who the vehicle was registered
and they
to.
said that they sold it to the.
They said that they sold it to the Rent-A-Wreck.
So why didn't they call Rent-A-Wreck? Why didn't they find out who's renting this vehicle right now? And why didn't Rent-A-Wreck update the registration? I'm just saying.
I think that's the least of the.
I know. I'm just saying it's weird that it was still registered to somebody who had sold it, a rental company. It's all these weird circumstances.
Yeah, and if you think about it, that's like one extra step now that they have to go through to figure out who's missing. So
it's
yeah,
just it's like a weird circumstance that I don't know. It just seems really peculiar that.
Yeah, it's just this
and that
whole
just
thing
adds to it. And the like, why didn't they search? Like, obviously, like, okay, somebody, like, their car is here. Let's just make sure everything's okay. Did they go through the box for the permits to see who's there? Like, it sounds like they did the bare minimum because they don't give a fuck.
If that, I mean, and again,
or they're covering something up. It's one or the other. Go on, sorry. I was finishing.
And they waited 10 days before they even attempted. Like, what do you think you're going to find? Are you either going to find somebody alive in the wilderness if they've been missing for 10 days and they were gone for a day hike? You know what I mean? Like, it's just, it's very, yeah, this one is just,
The system absolutely failed them all.
yeah. I think it's also interesting that the search and rescue team member told the family that there's an old man that lives in the woods. Everybody knows about him. That's what I mean, though. Something like that, where everybody knows, they don't know where he is. They don't know where his camp's set up. They don't know where to find
And
him,
no one
but
came
they all
across
know
him in the
he's there.
search.
Well, if there's somebody,
Yeah.
if there's an old man that's living in the woods and he doesn't want to be found, he's in the
Yeah.
woods because he doesn't want to be found. I'm sure.
But is it like a
Search
camp
and
that he
rescue
can
team.
move
I'm
all the
sure
time?
probably.
Or, yeah.
I would presume somebody that's living in the woods does not have, you know, a DVD collection and a bookcase full of
No,
books.
no.
They're
I'm just saying,
probably
like,
just
did
living
they
off
make
the
a shelter
land.
that they're living in? Like, that's their area?
Who
or
knows?
did they? I know, but if it
That's the
was, if he
thing.
stays in one spot, he might be easier to find. Is the point I was trying to get to.
But if it's a search and rescue team that's coming out into the wilderness, they're not quiet. They're obviously yelling. So he's going to hear them coming. He could probably just take
But yeah,
off because
did
he
this
doesn't want to be
did this
found
kid get
or seen.
kidnapped
Maybe the old man wanted a companion.
or dinner? Who knows?
Maybe it wasn't an old man at all. Maybe that's just something that the family was told, and it has no bearing on the case at all. But just again, something that's it's something that needs to be considered, and where it's somebody that everybody's aware of that lives there, but nobody knows where to find him or where he's located. It's just very, just a strange thing. And the fact that there's so many other open cases in that area of missing persons.
And they have a psychic come and say, search this area.
A reflexologist. What is that exactly?
I thought reflexology, and anyone can correct me if I'm wrong. I thought that's like with the parts on your head, and like there's different points on your head, and you work on studying how like with touching it affects people.
Okay.
But
I don't know.
Regardless, if somebody is psychic and they're saying, check this area with a metal detector, you search the area, why wouldn't you get some metal detectors?
You would think they'd have a metal, at least one on site to use.
Ask the volunteers, does anyone have a metal detector? Something.
It's just
like,
yeah,
try.
it's bizarre. Very bizarre.
And then saying like the department versus the family, kind of two different stories. It's either gross incompetence and negligence, or they're hiding something.
Or they're exactly. They're covering something up.
Yeah.
I don't know. Well, we're going to take a quick break, and everybody think about what we just talked about. Sit in that for a little bit. Let that just kind of fester in your mind, and try to think what could possibly have happened to this young man. And we'll get into some more cases when we come back in just a minute. Hearers, watchers,
Homewreckers.
Like what you're hearing or watching so far and want even more Homewrecker content? Then check us out on Supercast, where you can get more exclusive bonus content starting for as little as $5 a month.
You'll get more of the content you love and also have access to exclusive episodes, listener-requested shows, watch-alongs, AMAs, plus special deals on Homewrecker Podcast merchandise and more. Visit homewreckerpodcast.supercast.com to sign up or click the link in our show notes.
We really appreciate your support.
We do.
So hit pause and go check out homewreckerpodcast.supercast.com right now.
Or click the link in the show notes. Thanks.
We have returned. Hello. All right. So let's read another case, shall we?
All right. This one takes place in Maine. So state right above us. This is regarding David Joseph Brunig. He went missing on February 27th of 2016 at 12:05 a.m. He was 21, and this happened in Orano, Maine. Here is another classic example of a water-related disappearance. A college student, athlete, top-performing academic disappears in a downtown environment. Anyone could complete this story. The ending never changes. On November 2nd, 1994, David and Elena Brunnig of Westbrook, Maine, became the proud parents of David Joseph. The young man quickly gained notoriety for putting a smile on people when he entered the room. He was described by friends and family as a young person who honestly had his act together. His friends and family called him DJ. He was a good athlete, playing on his high school's football, basketball, and baseball teams, and later was a member of the college basketball team. After graduating from Westbrook High School in 2013, he applied and was accepted to the Maine Maritime Academy, where he studied maritime engineering technology. In February 2016, DJ was a junior at the Maritime Academy and on the dean's list. Life was treating him well, and he was on the path to success. On Friday, February 26th, the student was visiting friends at the University of Maine. He was last seen at 11:30 p.m., leaving a residence on Crosby Street in Orano. He wasn't seen by friends later that night or the following day, and a missing persons report was filed by the Hancock County Sheriff. DJ was described in missing person flyers as 6 feet 4 inches tall, 225 pounds, with a slim and athletic build. He was last seen wearing a black shirt, dark blue jeans, and brown Timberland boots. The sheriff's office joined forces with the Maine Warden's Service and started a search almost immediately. The wardens put dividers into the Penobscot and Stillwater rivers, had aerial flyovers, and also had canines respond. The police determined that David was trying to get from one point in the city to another to meet friends. They believed that he was going to walk across a railroad trestle that crossed one of the rivers, but this was conjecture. They pinged his cell phone and discovered the last time his cell phone was operable was 12:05 a.m. on February 27th, 35 minutes after he left the home. It was 11:30 p.m. when he left the residence, and it was less than 1 block to the railroad tracks, which could easily be crossed in less than 5 minutes. To explain the scope and effort of this search, read this April 26th, 2016 edition of the Bangor Daily. Quote, "For 2 months, search crews scoured the banks of the Penobscot River and the water as far away as Stockton Springs, more than 35 miles downstream, for clues of the missing man," end quote. There were no new developments in the missing persons case until April 22nd, 2016. 9 miles downstream from Orano, police recovered a body that was later identified as David. They found his wallet and driver's license in his pants. Several days after the recovery, the coroner's office made an interesting statement. He died from hypothermia and drowning. Hypothermia only occurs after extensive exposure to the cold. I encourage everyone to look at Google Maps online. Look up Crosby Street in Orano, Maine. Just to the south of the street, you will see a location titled Stillwater River Reservoir, and a few feet to the east, you will see railroad tracks crossing the river. Look at the water under the trestle. You can almost observe the rocks in the river. The implication to the rocks is if someone fell into the water in this area, they would have severe injuries that would be noted by the coroner. And even without bruising, it would be very doubtful that anything would stay in pants with a fall from that height. If the water was exceedingly high, this just further goes to the point that nothing would remain in his pants. David was in the Maritime Academy and a very good swimmer. There was not a statement from the coroner that DJ had alcohol in his system or that it was a contributing factor. The lack of alcohol and drugs means to the investigator that DJ had all of his faculties. If the young man fell into the river, he must have stayed alive for a long time because of the hypothermia determination. I don't believe he died in the river in this manner due to the lack of injuries, lack of drugs or alcohol, and his athletic ability and strong swimming skills. It's also important to remember that divers had searched the river. It was flown by planes, and witnesses had walked the banks for miles. There were several posts on social media about this incident. One post stated that if DJ went into the river on February 27th, he would have had to be in the ocean by April 22nd, based on the enormous flow of the river. It's approximately 25 miles from the last point DJ was seen downriver to the Penobscot Bay and the Atlantic Ocean. I could not locate any notes about what DJ was found wearing other than he had his wallet in his pants. I have documented 3 other cases in Maine in past books. One incident involved a Maine hunter that disappeared. The person was elderly and couldn't move well. He was found days later in a reservoir, nearly naked. I applaud the sheriff and Maine's Warden Service for making a stellar effort to locate DJ. You can't find something if it isn't there.
This one left me scratching my head too. How do you die of hypothermia? So he was in the water that long that he got hypothermia? Like what? What? It just yeah. And the fact that he's a big dude, 6'4", 225. That's a good sized dude.
Yeah.
You know, he's a big guy, athletic cat, good swimmer, and yeah, it's just this one it's just and no alcohol, no drugs found in the system. What happened here? What the hell happened here with this one?
Did he get stuck in the water? So he just had to like.
But the divers, they'd searched it with an aerial team.
Yeah,
They'd had
they wouldn't
divers
see
go
him?
in. Nobody saw anything. I mean, now again, I don't know this particular area in Maine. I don't know if this is like clear water, if it's, you know, we have here where we live, we have the Merrimack River, which is not the cleanest river. So I don't know how this particular river in Maine is. I don't know what the
I
visibility is
think
or
a
anything
lot
like
of
that.
rivers,
But
it's poor visibility. But if there's
perhaps
somebody in the water,
you'd think. I mean, they're floating up top, right? I don't know.
unless
This one is
something was
just
holding them down until they bubbled up.
but I don't believe that. Again, just with the details that are in the book, I mean, I don't know. This one, it doesn't make any sense. Again, another one that makes no sense. And this one, he disappeared. He wasn't in the woods. This wasn't the woods.
Oh,
This was he's in town.
yeah.
You would think somebody would have seen something or heard something, but nothing.
It's really bizarre.
Do you have any thoughts on this one? What do you think
Well,
that this could be?
I wonder.
Could this be the government taking somebody?
Maybe because
Maybe.
if he has hypothermia, and that's how he died, was hypothermia and drowning. Could he have gotten hypothermia? Could somebody have kidnapped him, left him exposed to elements like extreme cold, and
right.
then once he was so ill from it, then threw him in the river and he drowned?
I guess that's a possibility. I mean, I'd have to think that.
When was the time of death? When did they say? Was it recent? Or, I mean, sometimes it's harder, you know, if they're in
if
a
they've
cold,
been in the water,
yeah,
it's kind of
but
probably
it's like, there's no information.
right. I mean, yeah, I'm not a forensics guy, so I couldn't tell you how any of that stuff works.
I'm just saying it's hard to try to make some kind of analysis when you have little information.
Right.
And he brought up, why was it just what was in his pants, but no description of like what else he was wearing?
And he did also bring up a good point too, the fact that the wallet was in his pants.
Because that's been brought up before too in other books of his.
Right.
Where especially rivers, the way the flow of the river is,
stuff's gonna come out of your pockets.
Yeah.
You know, so that's why a lot of times bodies they don't have ID on them. That's very rare. So the fact that this one, on top of everything else, that is one of the factors here, one of the data points. It's very just bizarre.
Yeah.
How this guy falls from such a height, is in the water for however long he's in the water for, and his wallet and ID stay in his pants. It's very bizarre.
Yes,
almost like his body was just like placed there to be found. You know what I mean? Like almost like, yeah, like.
And I mean, you can't rule out expose him to cold elements, get hypothermia, and then drown him. Like not in the water. I don't know.
I mean, that's true too. Was he
I don't know.
drowned somewhere else and then placed there? Perhaps. All I know is I don't believe that he just fell in on his own. This doesn't seem like one of those things that he wasn't assisted in his demise. This seems like he was something happened to this kid.
I would say yes. The odds of that accidentally, him accidentally falling in
Yeah.
and that happening are very, 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 very slim. Can't rule out anything
I
is
can't, yeah, we
impossible,
can't rule it out
but
because
it
nobody
just
knows,
seems
but
illogical.
right. It just doesn't seem like it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. Do you want to go to the next story?
Let's carry on, shall we? We'll go to our final case here that we've selected. This one in the great state of Wyoming. A beautiful state. By all accounts, I've never been.
Never been.
I've seen lots of great pictures.
It's so beautiful. We've never been, but we've seen pictures, so we know. Pictures.
This particular case is about a young man named Craig Guyman. He went missing on October the 6th, 1996 in the Gros Ventre Wilderness in Wyoming. He was 47 years young at the time of his disappearance, and the 411 data points here, he was a hunter, hypothermia, and canines. Again, reading right from the book. I've always stated that we need to read about incidents that may be outside our comfort zone if we are ever to understand some of the complex issues in our world. If we are to get a worldwide perspective on the missing person issue, you need to read the works of people that may not be recognized as mainstream. 25 years ago, I first met Ruben Uriarte. In the years since, I've gotten to know Ruben as a thorough and quality investigator. In 2011, he authored a book with No Torres titled Aliens in the Forest. Please don't let the title push you away, as the background on the topic and the thoroughness of their research makes for a compelling case and great read. The story starts in the fall of 1964. Donald Shrum was employed by a United States military missile manufacturer. In his spare time, he liked to bow hunt in the Sierra Nevada mountains. He decided to drive to the area near Cisco Grove, California, located off of Interstate 80, approximately 25 miles west of Lake Tahoe. I won't go into the details of what happened, as I'd like you to read the book, but Mr. Shrum says that he met two very unusually dressed humanoids that chased him up a tree and then gassed him, causing him to go unconscious at the top. He states he doesn't have a memory of what happened next, but does remember waking up and the suspects were gone. The paper trail of this event, what Don subjected himself to prove the veracity of his claim, was impressive. I appreciate Ruben bringing this book to my attention. As you read the following story, you'll see the close resemblance between the two incidents. On October 6th, 1996, 47-year-old Cody, Wyoming resident Craig Guyman was hunting with a group of friends in the area of Soda Lake near Pinedale, Wyoming, in the Gros Ventre Wilderness. He was on horseback, as was one of his friends, and they were east of the lake. Craig took a shot at an elk, thought he hit it, and dismounted his horse to walk up. Point of separation. His friend waited an extensive period and then got additional hunters to look for Guyman. The group finally gave up and contacted the Teton County Sheriff. This was the last time his friend saw him. The October 9th, 1996 edition of the Jackson Hole News had details of the evolving event. Quote, Guyman's friends alerted county law enforcement early Monday. They had 8 people on foot and an airplane looking for Guyman during the day. They later added search dogs to the effort, end quote. On Tuesday, October 8th at approximately 10:22 a.m., members of the Teton County search team located Guyman's body 1 mile from where he was last seen. The details are explained in this October 9th, 1996 article in the Jackson Hole News. Quote, It looks pretty certain he fell out of the tree, but we don't know what he was doing up there, end quote. Teton County Sheriff Roger Millward said. Again, quote, maybe he was scared and went up there and went to sleep. It might have been a bear chased him, but there's not an indication of that. It looks like he was up there all night, end quote. Guyman's boots, coat, and hat were still in the tree, where he had apparently used his belt to tie himself fast, Millward said. There were signs Guyman had eaten while in the tree. Under the tree, there were candy wrappers and raisins, and also a trail of trash and gear, along with a short path Guyman apparently fell after falling. An autopsy was performed that showed that Craig had several broken bones, including a broken femur. The Teton County deputy coroner stated that the broken bones did not cause death. It was his opinion that hypothermia killed the hunter. After 2 days of being missing, he dies of hypothermia? Let's go through the essential facts. The hunter's boots were found, one in the tree and one on the ground. The impact with the ground did not cause the boots to come off. They were off before he fell. This is important. His coat was found in the tree, meaning it was off before he fell. It is said that he crawled for some distance after hitting the ground, suggesting he was alive. It was also explained that he had some small amount of food for energy. There was no evidence, tracks, scat, etc., in the area indicating a bear had chased him. One of the most significant facts, the sheriff couldn't locate Guyman's gun. Hunters know that your rifle is your lifeline. When you are lost that first night, fire off 3 rounds. This means you are in distress and need assistance. Every 2 hours after that, fire off additional rounds, allowing searchers to find you. Searchers in this instance heard nothing. Where did his rifle go? The thought that Craig got lost in this area is unbelievable. There is a distinct up and down, east and west, with the valley he was in ending at the lake where he started. I'll never believe the hunter was lost. Some of the most unusual stories I've ever documented dealt with elk hunters. What is it about elk, the hunting grounds, or the time of the year that brings these encounters to hunters? The coroner stated that Craig did not have any known medical issues and was a healthy guy with no mental illness. The similarities between this story and what happened to Donald Shrum is compelling.
So are they saying that
What?
maybe a bear chased him up the tree, so he threw his gun at it and then ate, and the bear,
The bear took his gun, ran off with his
yeah,
gun. Like, what happened to the guy's gun? Right.
it's very bizarre. Like, and why did he go in tree? There's so many missing 401 cases where people are in trees. Why are they in trees? Are they being chased up there? Like one person he's referring to in that story it said happened. Why are they in trees? Like, it's so weird.
Very, very bizarre.
And then why would you be in a tree and take off your coat and your boots? Let me just strip down in this tree.
It's a phenomenal question.
Get a little more comfortable.
The book that Paulides mentioned in that case, I actually just ordered it before we started recording, so we'll have that. And I'm going to read that, and we'll probably do a show on that in the future because that's very, very interesting to me. I don't like to rule anything out. I don't know if there's aliens. I don't think that they're what we're told they are and by Hollywood and everything else. But I mean, I don't know for sure that there is or isn't. I am the type, I am a very skeptical of a lot of things, but I'm open to all things.
I guess I'm just trying to rack my brain because if somebody tried to attack him, to take his gun, it's like, well, he could shoot at them and gunshots
Right.
would be heard while people are looking for him.
Correct. Yeah. And just the fact that he he went missing so quickly
Yeah.
and wasn't like you know what, it was just very bizarre. He's with a group of people and the point of separation and that occurs and then he's gone. He can't be found. His friend can't find him. And the rest of the hunters he's with all gather up. They can't find him. No, I mean, yeah, again, he had a rifle.
Mm-hmm.
What happened to his rifle? Why didn't he shoot off? I'm lost. Hey, I hear you guys, but I don't know where you are or whatever. Or I don't hear anybody. I've been gone for a while. Fire off my rifle.
Well,
Like,
usually, yeah,
you
because what
know,
people usually do is they'll fire their gun. If
yeah,
somebody's searching, the search party, somebody will fire off their firearm, and then you respond by shooting off yours, so
right,
that they can try to hear where the sound is coming from to
right.
find you.
That didn't occur here. So the man goes missing. He's obviously an experienced hunter. He goes missing with a rifle, doesn't use the rifle.
But he
He's
eats in the tree
but he eats in the he
and
goes
takes
up a tree, ties himself off with a belt. So he's obviously aware, conscious, cognizant of his actions. He knows what he's doing. He's
eats.
eats, takes his coat off, takes his boots off. Like, what's he doing? Is he just like set up camp for the night? You know what I mean? Like, what's happening
Like,
there?
was he going after that elk or whatever, trying to be like really like stealth? I don't know.
But yeah,
But then
but
he falls.
falls, breaks his leg,
And why?
crawls a bit, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's just very bizarre, very bizarre. And he dies of hypothermia. Again, another hypothermia, and it just
We're just going to
I
say
don't
it's
know.
hypothermia, but it's not hypothermia. We're just going to say it's
We're gonna call
hypothermia.
it hypothermia. Yeah, just very bizarre. Was he chased up that tree by something or someone? I again, where Paulides mentions these similarities between this instance and the Donald Trump case. I'm very curious now to read that book and to get the details of that gentleman's encounter. And apparently, a very credible encounter based on everything I was reading about just some of the things, reading the book description and things like that. That this guy went through a lot of great he went through great effort to prove that he wasn't lying. So I can't wait to see what all that stuff. I'm sure he probably took a lie detector test and a number of other things. I'm sure.
Yeah.
So it should be interesting.
We'll find out.
But yeah, this one, that one was just nuts. Like what could have happened
Like,
here?
is there something we're not getting here?
Yeah, apparently. So and again, Paulides has a couple of other missing 411 books out that we have not yet gone through and looked at, and we're going to check out some of those in the future.
Mhm.
But yeah, the elk hunters thing that he's talking about, yeah, apparently a lot of the hunters with the real unusual circumstances, yeah, they were elk hunting. So I know there's different seasons and things like that. That's a great question he brings up. Is it that type of year that maybe is causing these particular things to happen to people? I don't know. Very bizarre, but I don't think after going through these four cases or skimming through the book and reading other things earlier on, I don't have any idea yet what's causing any of these disappearances. I swear, like every time we've done one of these shows in the past, I usually will say, I figured it out. And then I read another case and now I have no idea. I stopped trying to figure it out because now it's once you think you have the answer, it's immediate. No, but it can't be because of this. So it's just, I don't know. Do you have any final closing thoughts on this?
Other than that's fucked up.
Other than that, I mean,
Yeah.
what do you think it is really? I mean, if you had to bottom line it and you had to take a really, really just an educated guess, are you going to stick with what you initially said that you
Yeah.
think it's just government or
Highly
secret
financed
clandestine corporations or something?
Yeah, highly financed, unknown organizations
All right.
experimenting.
Just kidnapping people, and if you're lucky enough to survive, great. If not, oh well.
Well, think about it. Think about like how they used to do experiments on military and prisoners. That stuff doesn't happen as much anymore. And I mean, I don't know.
Got to get those subjects somewhere, right?
Yeah.
That's grisly. That's grotesque. That's just horrifying to think about. Sadly, I think that is probably a possibility for some of these cases. Not going to
Maybe.
say all,
No.
but
And
I would
again, I
say
don't know.
that's
I'm just
probably.
trying to,
Well, I asked you to bottom line it and
yeah,
give me a guess. So I mean,
narratives.
that's as good a guess as any. I got nothing. I don't know at this point. I
Because, like,
have
okay,
no idea.
the Donald Trump, and when we get the book, we'll be able to read. But again, are people trying to look like aliens, and maybe they put some kind of gas that he didn't realize to make him not see as clearly, hallucinate a little bit, to give the impression that it's aliens, but it's
Sure.
not. I mean, who knows?
Yeah, there was a documentary we had watched a while back, and I'm blanking on the name of it now. But essentially, there was a government agent or former government agent, but obviously, once you're in the government, you're always in the government. And he himself said that, oh yeah, we used to mess with people all the time. We would dress up as aliens and we'd take them. And he was saying all this kind of stuff. And it's like, okay, is this guy telling the truth now that he's out of the military, supposedly, or is this just more disinformation, misinformation, just be put out there to confuse people?
We don't know.
It's so hard to tell. And that's the thing with all this stuff is there's never going to be, I don't think there's never going to be any clear answers with any of this stuff. It's almost like it's intentionally designed to keep us just searching constantly, perpetually searching for answers that we're never ever going to find. It's and the saddest thing about all of it is that there are human casualties.
Their families missing their
Oftentimes-
loved ones,
Oftentimes young children,
children.
which to me is the most tragic. Oftentimes just young adults who are just starting their lives, really just starting to get their lives going.
But parents, grandparents,
Grandparents, hunters. I mean, yeah, just people from all walks of life, and it's very indiscriminate. It's not like that it targets certain types of people or anything like that. It's all types of people from all walks of life go missing, and it's just, that's the saddest thing. And the fact we have no answers is just, it's maddening.
Yeah.
But on that note,
What do you think?
let us
What
know.
are you thinking as we're reading these stories, or if you've read the books and the stories that we've shared? Like, we kind of gave our thoughts on it. What are your thoughts? What do you think? What are you questioning that maybe we didn't bring up?
Let us know.
Let us know.
Hit us up.
Mhm.
Absolutely. We love interacting with our audience. So
Yes.
until next time, I am the Golden Greek, Alex Arion. I've been joined as always by my beautiful, lovely, gorgeous, intelligent, amazing, lovely. I got to start that over. My beautiful, lovely, gorgeous, amazing, intelligent wife, Monique.
And you've been listening to the Homewrecker podcast.
We love hearing from and interacting with our hearers and watchers. Feel free to reach out to us on Twitter
At Homewrecker Pod.
You can also visit our website,
homewreckerpodcast.com,
where you can check out past episodes and pick up some Homewrecker podcast gear from our online store.
Also, if you haven't already, please hit the subscribe or follow button wherever you're hearing or watching our show. That way you can be notified whenever a new episode drops. We're on all major podcasting platforms, and you can check out the video versions of our show at YouTube and Brighteon.
You can also find Monique in a few places online as well.
I'm on Twitter @_MoniqueGiselle_. If you're interested in a tarot reading, organite, incense, candles, and other cool things, you can go to my website, tarotbymonique.com. Or if you're interested in hypnotherapy, you can go to innerstandingshypnosis.com to schedule a free 20-minute consult. And follow me on Twitter @MoniquePCHT. And Alex, how can people find you?
You can find me on Twitter @TheAlexArion, and you can check out my website, AlexArionFitness.com.
And if that's too much to remember, we get it. That's why we put it all in our show notes.
Thanks for spending your time with us, and we appreciate all of your support.
We do. Thank you. We love you.